Members of the media are used to getting shabby treatment from politicians, but it's another thing to get arrested while trying to question officials. That's what happened earlier this week in West Virginia's Capitol building, where police hauled off a reporter they say was getting too aggressive. Presidential advisor Kellyanne Conway and Health and Human Services Secretary Tom Price were in West Virginia to discuss the opioid epidemic, which has hit that state particularly hard.
Secretary Dr. Tom Price.
The precedent was unremarkable and ends with reporters moving in for additional questions, including veteran reporter Daniel Heyman. In his audio recording of the encounter, Heyman is heard peppering the secretary with questions as he and Conway try to exit.
Do you think that's right or not, Secretary?
Yes. Do not get close to her. Back up.
Heyman continues questioning Price about a provision in the GOP's health care overhaul bill.
You refuse to answer? Tell me no comment.
30 seconds later, Capitol Police haul Heyman off in handcuffs. Another reporter described what she saw.
I didn't see any threats. He was just repeatedly asking questions.
But police say Heyman was, quote, aggressively breaching Conway and Price's security detail, charging him with creating a disturbance. After posting bail, Heyman defended his conduct.
And I was trying to get as close to Secretary Price as possible for obvious reasons. And that was all there was to it. And I was yelling out questions, and that was it.
Heyman says he plans to fight the charges. Well, we looked into his background. He's actually a well-respected reporter in West Virginia. He works for kind of a liberal, I think it's kind of an advocacy news agency of sorts.
Well, it looks like they're liberal-leaning,
yeah.
but it looked like a legitimate
fairly
news
legitimate.
organization.
But I mean, I could see this. He sort of breached a sort of security area. He was reaching over and into, and you know, when you have a phone, you don't have a microphone. Right. You got to get even closer because the microphones in those phones are terrible, as we all know. So, I don't know. I think the arrest was probably a little overdramatic, but he made a nuisance of himself.
Well, he did make a nuisance of himself, but it's interesting. My students and I were trying to puzzle this through the other day, and we were all wondering, could this have been seen as possibly a breach of security? But the fact is, he wasn't charged with breaching security. He was essentially charged with making a nuisance of himself. And these are the Capitol Police in Charleston. They know him. They know who he is. So, I mean, it really does, even though we didn't get to see exactly what happened, it really does seem to be as outrageous as it's been portrayed to be. And the Society of Professional Journalists has given a statement on this. The Broadcasters Organization has. I think that this was not a good moment for the Capitol Police.
Yeah, these are tough calls because in this day and age, so much anger, so much hostility, it would be a very difficult thing for somebody in security to maybe let somebody get too close if something had happened. So I wouldn't fault the police at that moment in what they did. But as soon as Secretary Price and Kellyanne Conway were clearly away from there, I think they should have said, you know, this is the end of it. It kind of called to mind, you remember Sam Donaldson during those years and when he covered the White House, and he was famous for yelling across lines at President Reagan usually, and President Reagan would smile that kind of empty smile and say the helicopter was too noisy. I can't hear you, Sam. It was all that. But Sam Donaldson, you talk about making an annoyance of yourself. You know, that was
but he
his
wasn't
stock and trade.
Right up on.
But he wasn't right up on.
2 inches from his.
Yeah, but to Dan's point, they know him, and more than that, he had passed through security, so there's nothing on him. They knew that, and not only did they know him, they knew he didn't have anything on him. So you can say, "Hey, Dan, step back." What's wrong with that? Or to your point, in the moment say, I'm going to have to push you back because you're too close. But they're arresting? This is crazy. And by the way, we just saw an example of Andrea Mitchell. She's becoming a good screamer now. She was
escorted out of one of the things.
I know, but that's again ridiculous.
But she wasn't arrested.
Right, exactly.
Well, it's just a woman.
Well, it's ridiculous. Those charges should be immediately tossed out. That's a joke. But it makes me grateful for the park rangers who patrol the State House and the state police detail that surrounds Governor Baker, who are always consummate professionals. They know us. They know we have a job to do. You know, I'm not often in scrums that are physical like that, like he seemed to get a little bit. But look, if the right to act like a jerk is not protected, then we're all going to jail, right? Maybe present company accepted. I know I am.
But I mean, I think it was Kellyanne Conway, it was Secretary Price. I mean, I think it was that extra. It was because it was them. If it had been, the governor of West Virginia, it wouldn't have happened. But it was the fact that it was.
I don't know. If the video showed that he really was in the area,
I was not all
them,
that sympathetic to him.
It's
as you
a
can
public
see.
place. Yeah. He's a credentialed reporter.
Exactly.
I'd like to see public radio in his state buy the guy a mic.
Yeah,
for
I know.
God's sakes.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, but he has
It's not
a right
really
to,
public radio, but it's something.
I mean, one thing he seems like a pretty single-minded guy, and one thing I was wondering was he so intent on getting audio from Secretary Price that he didn't realize that he was really up in
I'll tell you this:
Kellyanne Conway's
if he had been wearing
face.
a suit and tie, he would not have been arrested.
Well,
Just
that's
saying.
true too.
You might be right.